The Valerian collective had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. They were giants with silver skin and bodies that could heal from almost any wound. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields had never been broken. They conquered 10,000 worlds and no one ever defeated them. Supreme Commander Vector stood in the council chamber, looking at a hologram of a small blue planet. The creatures living there called it Earth. Another primitive species, Vector said to the council members. His voice was cold and emotionless. They fight among themselves with simple weapons. We will add them to our empire easily. Elder Koradh nodded. These humans know only war with each other. They have never faced a real enemy. Then they will surrender quickly, Vector replied. Send Ambassador Zelric with our standard message. 3 days later, massive Valerian ships appeared in Earth's sky. They were so large that their shadows covered entire cities. People around the world looked up in fear and wonder. Ambassador Zelric's voice boomed from every television and radio. People of Earth, the Valerian collective has found you. Your world will join our empire. You have 2 choices. Submit and serve us or resist and die. You have 24 hours to decide. In Seoul, Admiral Kim Dae-ho stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center. Leaders from every nation gathered around him. The room fell silent after the alien message ended. They're giving us 1 day? Captain Lee Jaiwoo asked. He was young but smart. They don't think we'll fight back, Dae-ho said quietly. He turned to face everyone. Activate the Phoenix Protocol. Every country, every soldier, every weapon we have. We're going to war. Lieutenant Park Min-ji looked at her computer screen. Sir, our analysis shows their shields are too strong for our weapons. Then we'll find another way, Dae-ho answered. We've been preparing for aliens for 70 years. We always planned for the worst. Today we were right. 24 hours passed. Ambassador Zelric waited for Earth's surrender. Instead, a message came from the planet's surface. Secretary General Kim Hyun appeared on screen. His face was calm but determined. Ambassador Zelric, we have considered your offer. We reject both options. We will not submit. We will not be destroyed without a fight. Here is our answer. Leave our solar system now or learn what happens when you threaten humanity. On the Valerian command ship, Zelric stared at the screen in confusion. They choose death? This makes no sense. Vector's voice came through the communication system. No species has ever chosen to resist us. Deploy the subjugation fleet. Show them their mistake. Yes, Supreme Commander. 30 Valerian warships moved toward Earth. This fleet had conquered hundreds of worlds. They never needed more ships than this. As they approached, thousands of small human ships launched from Earth and the Moon. They're attacking us? A Valerian officer said, surprised. With those tiny vessels? The human ships looked like a mess. Military fighters, old cargo ships, even mining vessels with weapons attached to them. They flew in random patterns, not in neat lines like proper warships should. This is inefficient, Zelric observed. Destroy them. The Valerian ships fired their weapons. Many human ships exploded. But others kept coming. Some ships flew straight at the Valerian vessels and crashed into them, exploding with nuclear bombs. For the first time in thousands of years, Valerian shields flickered and weakened. In the command center, Min-ji watched her screen. Squadron 7 succeeded. Enemy shields down to 93% on target vessel. Pilot Choi Yuna's voice crackled over the radio. This is Eagle 9. I see the weak point. I'm going in. Eagle 9, you don't have enough speed to, Min-ji started to say. Tell my family I love them, Yuna interrupted. Her fighter accelerated at maximum speed and hit the exact spot where the shield was weak. The explosion tore through the Valerian ship's armor. On the command ship, Zelric watched in shock as one of his vessels began venting air into space. How? Our shield should have stopped that. Multiple impacts on the same location, his officer reported. They're killing themselves on purpose to damage us. That's impossible. Why would they do that? More human ships attacked, focusing on the damaged vessels. Many humans died, but 3 Valerian warships were now disabled and drifting in space. Vector's voice cut through the chaos. Zelric, report. What is happening? Supreme Commander, the humans they're dying to hurt us. They don't care about surviving. They only want to destroy us with them. A long silence followed. Withdraw. Move beyond their weapons range. I need to understand what we're facing. The Valerian fleet retreated. Every human in the command center stood watching in stunned silence. They had never seen the enemy run away before. Admiral Dae-ho's hands shook slightly. They ran. They actually ran from us. Captain Jai would check the casualty reports. Sir, we lost 4,000 pilots in that battle. I know, Deho said quietly. They died giving us hope. The enemy knows we won't quit. Now we prepare for their real attack. Far across the galaxy on the Valerian homeworld, Vector watched footage of the battle over and over. He saw human pilots deliberately crash into his ships. He watched them coordinate their sacrifices to find any weakness. They fight harder when they're afraid, he whispered to himself. They don't run away. Fear makes them more dangerous. Elder Core-80H approached him. This has never happened before. Every species either surrenders immediately or stops fighting when they realize they cannot win. These humans are different. They'll never surrender, Vector said. Which means we must destroy them completely. Assemble the war fleet. Not a small force anymore. A real war fleet. These creatures have forced our hand. The Council may question using so many resources. Show them the battle footage, Vector said coldly. Show them 3 of our ships damaged by primitives and metal boxes. Show them that these humans discovered our shield weakness in just one battle. Something no enemy has done in 10,000 years. What if we cannot destroy them? Vector turned to face the Elder. His expression showed something no Valerian had felt in 50,000 years. Doubt. Then we face something we haven't experienced in all our history. We face a real threat. 6 months passed after humanity's first battle with the Valorians. Earth prepared for war like never before. Every factory made weapons. Every shipyard built warships day and night. Humanity united under one banner for the first time in history, not because of peace but because of survival. Commander Vector assembled the largest Valerian fleet in 5,000 years. 200 warships, each powerful enough to melt a planet's surface. He stood on his flagship called Eternal Dominion, studying battle plans. The humans have built defenses on their moon and Mars, his officer Gorven reported. They've filled space with millions of objects. Satellites, debris, mines. They're building walls because they cannot match our firepower, Vector observed. We'll destroy them all. On Earth, Admiral Deho stood before a holographic display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Captain Jaiwa looked worried. 200 ships. They're serious now. So are we, Deho replied. He turned to Colonel Nam Suk, head of their new weapons division. Is the trap ready? Every mine, every satellite, every piece of debris has been weaponized, Suk confirmed. The Valorians think in straight lines. They're organized and predictable. We're going to show them chaos. On Mars, Commander Kang Suho crouched in an underground bunker with 50,000 soldiers. Above them, Valerian ships appeared in orbit. 20 ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward the Mars colonies. They're taking the bait, Suho whispered into his radio. The Valerian Mars group descended toward the colony domes on the surface. Commander Belcour studied his sensors. Strange. Very few humans detected. Where are they? Underground, Gorven replied from the flagship. Normal defensive position. Then we'll force them out, Belcour said. Begin bombardment. The Valerian ships opened fire. Their plasma weapons tore into the Mars domes. Buildings exploded, sending debris into the thin atmosphere. But instead of humans fleeing, the debris suddenly ignited and exploded. What is happening? Belcour shouted. The debris was filled with explosives and metal fragments. The entire area became a storm of fire and shrapnel. Valerian shields flickered under the unexpected attack. Evasive action, Belcour commanded. As the ships tried to move, they triggered more explosions. The humans had buried mines across the entire surface in careful patterns. 3 Valerian vessels lost their shields. One ship began to fall, its engines damaged. They turned the whole planet into a weapon, Belcour whispered in disbelief. From underground, Suho gave the order. All units attack now. Target the damaged vessels. Hidden doors beneath the Martian soil opened. Thousands of soldiers poured out in armored suits, launching missiles at the vulnerable ships. Special teams rushed toward the falling Valerian vessel. Private Yoon Hannah was part of a boarding team. As her squad approached the damaged ship, she checked her weapons. Remember, we need their technology. Get data, weapon samples, anything we can learn from. If we survive, muttered Corporal Shin Jae beside her. Their small craft attached to the Valerian hull. Hannah placed an explosive charge and detonated it. The blast tore through the weakened armor and her team rushed inside. Valerian crew members tried to respond, but they had never fought inside their own ships before. Their warfare always happened in space, ship against ship. The humans moved through the corridors efficiently, their weapons cutting down the confused Valorians. Hannah reached the computer room and began downloading everything. Behind her, her team held the corridor against Valorian security forces. 2 minutes, she shouted. We don't have 2 minutes. Jay yelled back. The ship's power core is failing. 1 minute. Hannah insisted, her fingers working frantically on the alien computer. Above Mars, Belcour made a decision he never thought he would make. All ships retreat to higher orbit. Abandon the surface team. On the Eternal Dominion, Vector watched the Mars assault fail with growing anger. What is happening, Belcour? The humans don't fight the way anyone fights, Belcour responded, his voice shaking. They've weaponized everything. And they've boarded one of our ships. Boarded? Impossible. Our security systems should prevent that. They're inside right now, Supreme Commander. I've lost contact with the crew. Vector's eyes widened. In 50,000 years, no enemy had ever boarded a Valorian ship. Self-destruct that vessel immediately, he commanded. But our crew is still alive. Now. On the dying ship, Hannah's download completed. Got it? Move, move, move. Her team sprinted back toward their entry point, but alarms blared. The ship was starting to self-destruct. Explosions rippled through the corridors behind them. We're not going to make it, Jay said, looking at the distance. Hannah grabbed his arm. Yes, we are. Run. They dove through the breach just as the final explosion began. Their small craft detached and flew away at maximum speed. 5 seconds later, the Valorian ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Hannah looked at the data drive in her hand, then at her team. Of 20 soldiers who boarded, only 7 survived. But they had the enemy's secrets now. Worth it? Jay asked quietly. Has to be, Hannah replied. The main battle continued around Earth. Admiral Deho had positioned his fleet to look defensive, but it was actually designed to trap the Valorians in a killing zone. They're entering the grid, Minji reported. All weapons fire, Deho commanded. The debris field around Earth suddenly came alive. Thousands of hidden weapons activated. Railguns, missiles, lasers. The Valorians found themselves under fire from all directions. But it wasn't enough. The Valorian ships were too powerful. They pressed forward, destroying human weapons by the dozens. On his flagship, Vector allowed himself satisfaction. They fight well for primitives, but victory is inevitable. Push through to Earth orbit. Captain Jaiwa watched with dread. Sir, they're breaking through. Good, Deho said calmly. Let them think they're winning. Activate Phase 2. Release the volunteers. Thousands of small craft launched. Civilian ships, old military vessels, anything that could fly. Each one was piloted by a volunteer who knew they weren't coming back. Each carried enough nuclear weapons to destroy a city block. Pilot Omiho sat in his fighter, looking at a photograph of his wife and 2 daughters. This is Guardian 9, he spoke into his radio. For everyone back home. For the future. His ship accelerated toward a Valorian cruiser, joining hundreds of others. The Valorians tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The volunteers didn't dodge. They just flew straight at their targets. The explosions lit up space like a new sun. On the Eternal Dominion, Gorven's voice cracked with panic. Supreme Commander, we've lost 17 ships. The humans are all attacking at once. They're sacrificing themselves. Vector watched, and for the first time in his long life, he felt something cold in his chest. These humans weren't just fighting. They were eager to die fighting. Pull back, Vector ordered. Sir? Retreat beyond their weapons' range. For the second time, the Valorians retreated from human space. In the command center, exhausted cheers erupted. But Deho didn't celebrate. He looked at casualty reports. 12,000 volunteers didn't come home. We hurt them today, he said quietly. They know we won't surrender. But they'll come back stronger. Across the galaxy, Vector stood alone, watching footage. He saw humans fly into plasma fire. He saw soldiers board a doomed ship for data they might not survive to deliver. They're afraid, he said to himself. But they fight anyway. They fight harder because they're afraid. Elder Koradh entered. The council demands an explanation. We've lost 33 ships to primitives. Let them complain, Vector replied coldly. I'm the only one who understands what we're facing. We're facing warriors who know fear but refuse to surrender to it. 18 months after the Battle of Mars, the Valorian Collective was preparing the largest military force in its history. Supreme Commander Vector stood before the Grand Council in their crystal chamber on the Valorian home world. The humans must be completely destroyed, Vector declared. Not conquered. Not absorbed. Erased from existence. Elder Koradh studied him carefully. In 50,000 years, we have never committed total destruction. We conquer. We integrate. We do not annihilate. The humans are different. Vector activated a display. In 18 months, they've copied our shield technology, developed weapons against us, and started building warships using our stolen designs. They learn faster than any species we've ever encountered. A council member spoke up. Perhaps we should offer them a place in the collective. As warriors, they could be useful. No, Vector's voice was sharp. You don't understand. The humans aren't just warriors. They're an infection. A dangerous idea. In sectors near their space, we've detected increased resistance among our conquered species. The humans broadcast messages about freedom and fighting back. They're teaching others to resist. He showed intercepted communications. A human voice spoke in many translated languages. This is Captain Lee Jaiwu of Earth. If you're hearing this, you don't have to accept slavery. We were told the Valorians were invincible. We proved that wrong. You can too. Fight back. Never surrender. Whispers spread through the council chamber. Some representatives looked troubled. Others looked hopeful. This is why they must be destroyed, Vector continued. Not because they're strong, but because they spread hope. They make others believe they can win. The council voted unanimously. The humans would be eliminated. On Earth, humanity prepared. In underground laboratories, Dr. Han Jisoo addressed Admiral Daeho through a hologram. We've had a breakthrough, Jisoo said, looking exhausted. The Valerian shields change frequencies constantly. That's why our weapons barely damage them. But we've developed a weapon that attacks all frequencies at once. It overloads their shields instead of trying to penetrate them. Will it work? Daeho asked. In computer simulations, yes. In reality, we don't know. We haven't tested it on a real Valerian shield yet. We'll get our chance, Daeho said grimly. Our sensors show a massive fleet assembling. 5,000 ships. 5,000. Jisoo's face went pale. Admiral, we only have 300 combat ships. I know. But we'll make them pay for every meter they take. While fleets prepared for battle, another war was happening in the shadows. Captain Park Minji now commanded Earth's Special Operations Division. Her team's ship, the Silent Shadow, approached a Valerian supply station in deep space. The station was enormous, processing resources from dozens of conquered worlds. Remember, Minji told her 30 operatives, we're not here to destroy it. We cripple it and steal everything we can. Lieutenant Choi Yuna, who survived the first battle, checked her weapons. And if we get caught? We don't get caught, Minji replied. But if we do, you know the protocol. Everyone nodded. Capture meant torture. The protocol was simple, don't get captured alive. The Silent Shadow drifted toward the station disguised as a damaged cargo ship. Valerian security scanned them but found nothing wrong. The humans had learned to hide their life signs. Minji's team wore stolen Valerian environment suits with hidden faces. They entered through a docking bay, moving with practiced coordination. Their mission was to reach the main computer, upload a virus to corrupt the Valerian logistics network, and escape in the chaos. As they moved through corridors, Minji observed the Valorians working. Every movement was precise and efficient. No wasted effort. No emotion. They really don't understand us, Yuna whispered. Look at them. No fear, no anger, nothing. How do you fight something that doesn't feel? The same way we fight everything, Minji replied. With everything we have. They reached a junction and heard voices. Valerian security guards passed nearby. Thanks to stolen translation technology, Minji understood them. The humans continue resisting, one said. It's been 18 cycles. Why don't they surrender? The psychological profiles make no sense, the other replied. They experience fear, yet they fight. They know they'll die, yet they continue. It's illogical. Commander Vector thinks they're dangerous because of this. Vector is obsessed. They're just primitives who got lucky. The guards moved on. What they said troubled Minji. The Valorians didn't just not understand humanity. They couldn't understand. Fear, hope, sacrifice, these concepts were completely foreign to them. They reached the computer core. Sergeant Kim Doyen started working. This will take 10 minutes. You have 5, Minji replied, watching the corridor. Alarms suddenly blared. A Valerian officer's face appeared on screens. Intruders detected. Section 7 Beta. All security converge. They know we're here, Yuna said, raising her weapon. Doan. Minji asked urgently. 3 minutes. I need 3 minutes. Hold position. Minji commanded. The team formed a defensive line as Valerian security forces arrived. The corridor filled with plasma fire. Humans returned fire with stolen Valerian weapons. Private Baek Sumin took a plasma bolt to the shoulder and fell. Private Li Wujin dragged him to cover, sealing the wound with emergency foam. Heavy weapons incoming, someone shouted. Minji saw battle drones on her display. Their team couldn't survive that firepower. Doan. 30 seconds. Plasma bolts hit the wall next to Minji's head. She returned fire, dropping a guard. But for every Valerian they killed, 2 more appeared. Upload complete. Doan shouted. We need to leave now. Alternate exit go. Minji ordered. The team retreated through maintenance shafts, sealing doors behind them. The virus was already spreading through the Valerian network, corrupting data and shutting down systems. They reached their ship with enemy forces 30 seconds behind. The Silent Shadows engines were ready for immediate departure. Go, go, go. Minji shouted as her team scrambled aboard. The ship pulled away as Valerian forces arrived. Plasma fire chased them into space, but their pilot commander Omiho weaved through the fire expertly. Jumping to faster than light, he announced. Behind them, the Valerian station's lights flickered and died. Systems failed as the virus spread. 3 months of supplies and data were being corrupted. As they escaped, Minji looked at her team. They'd lost 2 people. Sumin died from his wounds, and Private Kong Haru stayed behind to hold off the Valorians so others could escape. They knew the risks, Yuna said quietly. Doesn't make it easier, Minji replied. No. But it makes it matter. 3 days later they returned to Earth. Admiral Daiho met them personally. Your virus worked, he told Minji. Valerian supply lines in 3 sectors are in chaos. You bought us time. At what cost? Minji asked, thinking of the dead. 2 heroes, Daiho replied. And proof we can hurt them even when we can't match them in open battle. Across the galaxy, Vector watched reports about the station attack. They're everywhere, Gorven said, frustrated. Small teams attacking supply lines, communications, everything. We can't predict where they'll strike. Because they don't fight the way we fight, Vector replied. We have strategies and predictable patterns. They have chaos. How do we counter chaos? We don't. Vector showed a star map with red marks indicating rebellions. We end the source. The invasion fleet is ready. 5,000 ships. We'll reduce Earth to dust. Without their home world, humanity will collapse. And the other species watching? They'll see what happens to those who resist, Vector said coldly. But on conquered worlds across the galaxy, enslaved species watched smuggled human broadcasts. They saw humans fighting impossible odds. They saw them refusing to surrender. And they began to wonder, if humans could resist, why couldn't they? On dozens of worlds, whispers spread about the humans. The Valorians had ruled through fear of their power. But now something more powerful was spreading. Hope. The sky above Earth burned with the arrival of 5,000 Valerian warships. They appeared in perfect formation, a mechanical forest of death that blocked out the stars. In cities around the world, people looked up and knew this was the end. In the command center, Admiral Kim Daeho stood before the tactical display with unsettling calmness. 300 human ships against 5,000 Valerian vessels. The mathematics of extinction. Sir, Captain Lee Jaiwu said quietly, we should begin evacuations to the deep shelters. Already happening, Daeho replied. But we all know those shelters won't matter if they destroy the planet. This isn't about survival anymore. It's about how many of them we take with us. Colonel Nam Suk stepped forward. Sir, we have one option left. The Prometheus Protocol. Everyone knew what that meant. Every nuclear weapon humanity ever built, every experimental bomb, every last resort weapon would launch simultaneously. Earth's surface would become uninhabitable, but the resulting explosion would destroy any Valerian ship in orbit. Mutual destruction. If we activate Prometheus, we lose Earth anyway, Lieutenant Minji said. But humanity survives, Daeho replied. Our colonies on Mars, Titan, and Europa will carry on. And every species in this galaxy will know you can't conquer humans without paying the ultimate price. On the Valerian flagship Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Vector surveyed Earth's defenses. Pathetically weak. This would be quick. All ships, assume bombardment formation, he commanded. Target population centers first. Sir. Gorven interrupted. Reading massive energy spikes across the planet. They're launching everything. Nuclear weapons, kinetic missiles, chemical weapons. Their entire arsenal. At us. No, sir. At themselves. Vector stared at the display in disbelief. The humans were turning their own planet into a giant bomb that would detonate the moment the Valorians got close enough. They're committing planetary suicide to kill us? Gorven's voice cracked. This is insane. For the first time Vector hesitated. His entire career, 50,000 years of Valorian history, had never prepared him for an enemy that would destroy itself to hurt him. On Earth, Lieutenant Yoon Hannah stood at a launch control station, her hand on the activation switch for a nuclear silo. She thought about her family in the deep shelters that might survive what was coming. This is Lima Station, she spoke into her headset. Prometheus missiles armed and ready. Across the planet, hundreds of similar confirmations came in. Every launcher was ready. Earth was about to become a dying star. Admiral Daho's hand hovered over the final authorization code. All he had to do was enter it and Earth would ignite. But he paused, looking at the faces around him. These people had fought for 18 months, sacrificing everything. Wait, he said softly. Sir? Jaiwa looked at him in surprise. Wait. Let's see what they do. On the Eternal Dominion, Vector's officers were shouting. They're bluffing. They won't actually destroy their own world. It's a trick to make us hesitate. But Vector studied the data carefully. Every missile was genuinely armed. Every weapon was hot and ready. The humans weren't bluffing. They were completely serious about dying. Supreme Commander, Gorven said quietly, if we proceed we'll win. But we'll lose at least 2,000 ships in the resulting explosion. Maybe more. 2,000 ships, Vector repeated slowly. 40% of our assembled fleet. To conquer one primitive world. They've left us no choice. Either we destroy them and accept massive losses, or we retreat and show weakness to the entire galaxy. Vector stood silent for a long moment. Then something happened that hadn't occurred in 50,000 years of Valorian history. He felt fear. Not for himself, but for what these humans represented. They were an enemy that could never be defeated because they refused to value their own survival above their freedom. Contact their leadership, Vector said finally. I want to speak with Admiral Daho directly. The command center on Earth erupted in confusion when the message came through. The Supreme Commander of the Valorian Collective was requesting negotiations. It's a trick, Colonel Suk said immediately. They want us to lower our guard. Maybe, Daho replied. But they've stopped their advance. That's real. He looked at his staff. Keep Prometheus armed and ready. But I'll hear what he has to say. Vector's face appeared on the main screen. For the first time humans saw genuine emotion on a Valorian face. Uncertainty. Admiral Daho, Vector began. I have studied your species for 18 months. I've watched you fight, sacrifice and die. I've tried to understand why you do what you do. And? Daho asked carefully. I realize now that I cannot understand. The Valorians evolved beyond fear 50,000 years ago. We thought it made us superior. But watching your people, I see we lost something important. You feel fear yet you fight anyway. You know you'll die yet you resist. This makes no logical sense. Logic isn't everything, Daho replied. We fight because we have something worth fighting for. Family. Freedom. The right to choose our own path. These concepts are foreign to us, Vector admitted. But I understand one thing clearly now. I cannot conquer you. Even if I destroy Earth today, your colonies will continue fighting. Your idea will spread. You've already inspired rebellions on 6 conquered worlds. If I eliminate you, I make you martyrs. The entire galaxy will rise against us. So what are you proposing? Daho asked. A ceasefire. Not surrender. Not submission. A complete cessation of hostilities while we both reconsider our positions. Daho looked at his staff. Everyone seemed equally stunned. Captain Jaiwa spoke first. Sir, this could be our only chance to avoid mutual destruction. Or it's a delay tactic while they bring more forces, Minji countered. I don't think so, Daho said quietly. Look at his face. He's afraid. For the first time, they understand what it means to face an enemy that won't quit. He turned back to the screen. Commander Vector, I accept your ceasefire on one condition. Your fleet withdraws immediately beyond our solar system. If you agree, we'll stand down Prometheus. Vector nodded slowly. Agreed. We will withdraw. But Admiral, understand this. Today is not a victory for either of us. Today both our species learned something new. You learned you can make us afraid. We learned that fear is not always weakness. Sometimes, Daho replied, Fear is the beginning of wisdom. The Valerian fleet began its withdrawal. Across Earth, people watched the massive ships pull back and disappear into the darkness of space. In the command center, exhausted personnel collapsed in their chairs. They had been seconds away from planetary suicide. "We survived," Jaiwu whispered in disbelief. "For now," Deho replied. "But everything has changed. We've shown the galaxy that the Valorians can be stopped. We've given hope to species that had none. The question is, what happens next?" Lieutenant Hannah, still at her nuclear silo control station, received the stand-down order. Her hands shook as she deactivated the weapons. She thought about how close they'd come to ending everything. Across the galaxy, on a conquered world called Nexus Prime, a young alien named Kelzak watched the news. The humans had faced 5,000 Valerian ships and made them retreat. Not through superior weapons or technology, but through sheer unwillingness to surrender. Kelzak looked at his fellow enslaved workers. "If they can do it," he said quietly, "maybe we can too." The Valerian collective had ruled through fear for 50,000 years. But now humanity had introduced something more powerful than fear into the galaxy. They had introduced hope. And hope, once kindled, is almost impossible to extinguish. 3 years passed since the standoff over Earth. An uneasy peace existed between humanity and the Valerian collective. Neither side trusted the other, but neither wanted to return to war. The galaxy, however, had changed dramatically. The Valerian collective was crumbling. 40% of their conquered territories had erupted in rebellion. Species that had served the Valorians for thousands of years suddenly remembered what freedom meant. They had watched humans refuse to surrender, and it awakened something long dormant inside them. Supreme Commander Vector stood in his command chamber, watching reports of another rebellion on the Outer Rim. His empire, which had stood unchallenged for 50,000 years, was falling apart. "The Thorian system has declared independence," Gorven reported wearily. "That's the 15th world this month. And we don't have enough forces to respond," Vector said quietly. "We spread ourselves too thin preparing to fight the humans. Now everyone else sees our weakness." Elder Koradh entered the chamber. "The council is in chaos. Some demand we crush all rebellions with extreme force. Others suggest we negotiate. A few even propose we ask the humans for help." "Help?" Vector turned sharply. "From the species that started all this?" "They didn't start it," Koradh replied. "We did when we tried to conquer them. They simply showed the galaxy that we could be resisted. Perhaps it's time we learned from them instead of fighting them." Vector considered this carefully. The idea would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. But everything had changed. He made a decision that would have shocked his ancestors. Contact Admiral Deho. Request a meeting on neutral ground. On Earth, Admiral Deho received the message with surprise. He sat in his office with Captain Lee Jaiwu and Colonel Nam Suk, discussing the proposal. "It could be a trap," Suk said immediately. "Lure you away from Earth and eliminate you." "I don't think so," Jaiwu replied. "Our intelligence shows the Valerian Empire is collapsing. They're dealing with rebellions everywhere. They need us more than we need them. The question is," Deho said slowly, "what do we want? We've survived. We've inspired others to fight for freedom. But can we live in a galaxy where the Valorians still exist? Maybe we don't have to destroy them," Lieutenant Park Minji suggested, entering the room. "Maybe we can change them." 2 weeks later, Deho and Vector met on a neutral space station. The station was run by the Centauri Trading Federation, a species that remained independent of both human and Valerian influence. The two leaders sat across from each other in a simple meeting room. For a long moment, neither spoke. They had been enemies, had nearly destroyed each other. Now they sat as equals. "Thank you for coming," Vector began. "I know you have no reason to trust me." "No, I don't," Deho agreed. "But I'm curious about what changed your mind." "You did," Vector replied simply. "Humans changed everything. For 50,000 years, the Valorians ruled through fear. We were the strongest, so others obeyed. But you showed the galaxy something we never could. You showed them that there are things worth dying for. And now your empire is falling apart because of it." "Yes," Vector admitted. "But perhaps it deserved to fall. I've spent 3 years studying humanity. Your history, your culture, your conflicts. Do you know what I learned?" "Tell me." "You've fought countless wars among yourselves. You've committed terrible acts against your own species. But somehow you learned to move beyond that. You united when faced with an external threat. More importantly, you value something we lost long ago. You value choice." Deho leaned back in his chair. Commander, why are you really here? Because I need help, Vector said, and for a Valerian to admit needing help was revolutionary. The rebellions are spreading. Some are peaceful, seeking independence. Others are violent, seeking revenge for thousands of years of subjugation. The galaxy is descending into chaos, and the Valorians don't know how to handle it. We only know conquest and control. And you think humans can teach you something different? I think humans understand something we don't. You understand how to have conflict without complete destruction. You understand how to compete without conquering. You've done it among yourselves for thousands of years. Deho considered this carefully. What exactly are you proposing? An alliance, Vector said. Not Valerian dominance. Not human control. A genuine partnership. The Valorians have technology and resources. Humans have adaptability and understanding of freedom. Together, we could help these rebelling species transition to independence without the galaxy tearing itself apart. You want us to help you give up your empire? I want us to build something better than an empire, Vector replied. Something neither of our species has achieved alone. A true coalition of independent worlds, working together by choice, not by force. Deho was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. Commander, 3 years ago you came to Earth planning to conquer us. Now you're proposing we help you give away your power. That's quite a change. 3 years ago I didn't understand fear, Vector said. I didn't understand courage, sacrifice, or hope. Your species taught me those things. Now I want to learn more. I want the Valorians to learn more. It won't be easy. There are humans who will never trust you. There are Valorians who will see this as betrayal. And there are thousands of species that have suffered under your rule who want revenge, not reconciliation. I know. But the alternative is galactic war that could last centuries. Is that what you want? Deho thought about the young pilots who had sacrificed themselves, about the soldiers who died on Mars, about how close Earth came to destruction. He thought about what they had all fought for. Not just survival but the right to choose their own destiny. No, he said finally. That's not what we fought for. We fought so everyone could be free to choose. If we don't help now, we're just creating a new kind of tyranny. He extended his hand across the table. It was a human gesture Vector had studied. A symbol of agreement and trust. Vector looked at the offered hand. In Valerian culture, physical contact was rare and significant. Slowly he reached out and grasped Deho's hand. We have an agreement, Deho said. The Terran-Valorian Alliance. We'll help transition the rebelling worlds to independence. We'll share technology and knowledge. But Commander, understand this clearly. The moment you betray this trust, the moment you return to your old ways, we'll fight you again. And next time, we won't stop until your empire is dust. I understand, Vector replied. And I accept those terms. 10 years later, the galaxy was transformed. The Valerian Collective no longer existed as an empire. In its place was the Galactic Coalition, a federation of independent worlds working together by choice. Some former Valerian territories thrived. Others struggled. But all were free. Humanity had become the unexpected bridge between species, helping negotiate conflicts and teaching others what they had learned from their own violent history. How to disagree without destroying. How to compete without conquering. Admiral Deho, now retired, stood in his garden on Earth, looking up at the stars. His granddaughter, young Hannah named after the hero of Mars, played nearby. Grandfather, she called out. Teacher said you fought in the war with the Valorians. Is it true you almost destroyed Earth? Yes, Deho replied. We were ready to sacrifice everything rather than surrender. Why? Because some things are worth dying for. Freedom. Choice. The right to determine your own future. But you didn't die. You made peace instead. Deho smiled. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't being willing to die for what you believe in. It's being willing to live for it, to work for it, to build it even when it's difficult. Far away, on what was once the Valerian home world, Commander Vector stood before a class of young Valorians. He taught history now, ensuring the next generation understood what had happened. Our ancestors believed fear was weakness, he told them. They evolved beyond it and thought that made them superior. But they were wrong. Fear is not weakness. Fear is the acknowledgement of what matters. You cannot be brave without first being afraid. A young Valerian raised his hand. Teacher, do you feel fear now? Yes, Vector admitted. I fear we might forget these lessons. I fear we might return to our old ways. But I also hope. And hope, I learned from humans, is even more powerful than fear. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. New threats would come from beyond explored space. Conflicts would arise between species learning to coexist as equals. The future was uncertain. But nothing in the universe made the Valorians afraid until they met humans. And in learning fear they learned courage. In learning courage they learned hope. In learning hope, they learned what it truly meant to be more than just survivors. They learned to be heroes.